everything. Most of the things we struggle for in life is trying to get access or to increase access. You know, all of a sudden when your brother becomes the governor, you just sit back. And you think in your mind, even though you don't say it, that it's our turn. Access is what? Everything. Esther chapter 5 verse 2. The Bible says that so it was when the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court. She was in the outer court. And if you're in the outer court today, the Lord will open the door for you. Amen. She was in the outer court. But just looking through her, there are things that you will do that will transform you from the outer court into the inner court. The Bible says that she found favor in his sight. And the king held out to Esther his golden scepter. Then Esther went in and touched the top of the scepter. My prayer today is that the Lord Almighty will give you access. Amen. There will be something in you, within you, that will make the Lord Almighty open the door for you. Amen. And invite you in. Amen. Verse 3. Because access is so powerful. The Bible says that, and the king said to her, because she now had access, what do you wish, Queen Esther? What is your request? It shall be given to you up to half of the kingdom. A few minutes before that, she did not have that kind of priority. But when she had access, she became everything. This week, the Lord will meet you at the point of your needs. Amen. The way a kingdom operates is different from the way a democracy operates. We said that very clearly last week. It's very, very different. In a kingdom, everything belongs to the king. And to the glory of God, when you gave your life, when you became saved, you became part of God's kingdom. You became a subject of the king. You became a very powerful person. And that's why you can sing that you are wonderfully made and you are fearfully made, because you belong to God and you resemble God. Because when you become a kingdom person, you have access to the throne of grace. Unlimited access. Now, your access to the king determines how much of the kingdom resources that you have, you can lay your hands on. The closer you are to the king, the more the resources that you can lay your hands on. I was saying last week that there are some people that even have the PIN number to your account. They don't have to ask you. They just get on the phone and they press some numbers and they can transfer everything you have. It's called access. If you don't have that kind of person in your life, it's because you are not married yet. In the kingdom, there is no personal ownership of anything. Why? Because everything belongs to God. Everything belongs to the king in the kingdom. Everything. Nobody owns anything. He owns everything. And that's why access to the king is very important. In a democracy, you can wake up tomorrow and say terrible things to your president. Call him names. Because tomorrow you can vote him out. But in a kingdom, you need to have constant access to the king for you to benefit from the resources of the kingdom. Are you with me? And that's why it's so beautiful that at salvation we received that access through the blood of Jesus. And if you are not here if you are here this morning and you have not, you know you don't have that access. I pray that at the right time you will get that access. Because that access is key. It's key to everything you do here on earth. The access to the king. But then, like in all our relationships, just like I said earlier, that if you have not given your PIN number out to somebody, it's because you're not married. like any of your relationships, access is never equal. It's never ever equal. There are some people that can enter the innermost of your room in your house, that can be on your bedroom. There are people that can enter your refrigerators and eat whatever they want when they walk into your house without asking you. There are some people that when you even ask them, they will say no 3 times before they say yes. I'm not talking about rude people. I'm not talking about people that they know they don't have access, but they don't care. I'm hungry. We are talking about access. The difference is that you cannot bully your way into the presence of the king. And that was why Esther had to fast for 3 days before she dared to attempt to enter the presence of the king uninvited. Access is not what? Access is never equal. But how come it becomes unequal? When we all gave our life, we went in through the blood of Jesus. We had equal access at some stage. Because the reason why it is not equal is that some of us do things that reduce our access, while some people do things that will increase their access. Some people do things that will reduce their access, and people do things that will what? Increase their access. Last week we looked at one major way that will reduce access. And that's by claiming ownership. By claiming ownership. The fact is this. Because the king owns everything, anything that you have was given to you by the king. Because he owns everything. He owns the earth and the fullness thereof. He owns the birds that sings. He owns the water that flows. He owns the air we breathe. He owns everything. So everything you have was given to you by God to manage. And that includes your children, your job, your husband, your wives, your cars, your houses, those things that you treasure so much. Those things that you cannot even mess with anybody about. They belong to who? To the king. He has just given them on lease to you. When I was praying with my friend's wife that lost a 22-year-old that was shot yesterday, she was almost unconsolable. But the Holy Spirit brought this word to my mother. I said, you know, Helen, he was on a lease for 22 years. He's back with the owner. And then she calmed down. The truth is this, everything we carry so dearly is just a lease. It still belongs to the king. And that is why the king gets so upset when we take ownership. When we now start saying, it is mine, it is my son, it is my child, I have to be at my child something, I have to be at my husband's. He looks at you. As a matter of fact, it is a dangerous thing to do, to take ownership. You are putting the life of those people at risk. You are putting your job at risk if you love your job more than God. You are putting your house at risk if you love your house more than God. It's a big risk. That was what happened in Luke chapter 20, verses 9 to 19. The master was leaving and he gave his vineyard to some vine dressers to keep. They flogged the first one, they flogged the second one, they flogged the third one, and then he sent his son, and they killed his son. They decided to kill his son. The Bible says in verse 16, what would he do to them? It says he will come and destroy those vine dressers and give the vineyard to another. The Lord Almighty will not give what is yours to another. The only reason that will not happen is that you must be a good manager of what he has put in your hands. You must manage it so well that you don't make him feel that you have taken ownership. He will not destroy the works of your hands. Kingdom prosperity is owning nothing but having access to everything. That's kingdom prosperity. You don't own anything. Nothing belongs to you, but you have access. Everyone say access. And I'm telling you, access is more important. Access is more important. In the kingdom, God does not give you cash. He gives you what? He gives you a checkbook, a signed checkbook. Unlimited access. Cash will finish. But when you have access, your boss will say, abum bouton. There's a source of God that is unlimited. It doesn't finish. It is continuous. Stretch out your hands and say this morning, Father, each time I put out my hands, it will not come back empty. That is the blessings of God. It's not that you have resources that you have kept somewhere, that you stockpile. I understand that under the beds now there are dollars and thousands. I don't want to talk. But it's not about stockpiling. It's about having what? Access. You see, let me tell you something about stockpiling. There's a problem with stockpiling because what you have stockpiled may not meet the needs of tomorrow. You may stockpile dollars and what you need is health. And the amount of dollars you have cannot buy the health. You cannot stockpile. You can only have access. And the beauty of access is that it's unlimited when you have access to the one who has everything. There's a problem with having too much stockpiled. When you have too much stockpiled, you can't even move easily. Oh, don't worry. At the end of the service, I'm going to announce we have a program starting this month. The biggest loser. When you stockpile too much, you can't move freely. When you own too much, it is not easy for you to follow Jesus. We talked about a rich ruler in Luke chapter 18. He was a perfect man. Everybody say perfect. He was completely righteous. He gave to the poor. He was gracious in character. He was humble as a person. But he lacked one thing. He had too much. You will not have too much. Amen. The Bible says in Proverbs that God should not give me too much or too little. There's an adequate thing. It's called access. He had too much. And when he looked at what he had, he couldn't follow Jesus. Nothing will keep you back. Amen. I said nothing will keep you back. Amen. Now listen. Claiming ownership is not the only thing that may affect your access to the king. There are other things. And we'll look at two today before we close the service. There was a time before the fall of man that we had total access to God. As a matter of fact, God and man used to walk hand in hand in the Garden of Eden. It was total access. We were talking face to face, mouth to mouth. And it may have continued. It may have continued if man did not have a need. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 20. The Bible recorded that man was alone, but he was not satisfied. He had a need. It says, but for Adam there was not found a helpmate compatible or comparable to him. He needed a relationship, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. Your relationships can determine your access to God. I know we all need relationships. That's how we were created. We were created to want relationship. It's a need we have. But you must watch your relationship. Tell somebody, watch your relationships. Who do you give access to? Because whoever you give access to may affect your access to the king. Your relationship will add to you or take away from you. Your relationships. Eve gave access to the devil. And Adam gave access to Eve. A combination of relationships led to what? A loss of access to the king. You will not lose access. Amen. The Bible says in Genesis chapter 3, verse 24, they lost access because of the relationship they had. Genesis 3:24. 3:24. The Bible says, so he drove them out, the man, and he placed cherubim at the east of the garden. Why? He placed a cherubim with a flaming sword to ensure that this man will not have access. My prayer this morning is that if there's a flaming cherubim that does not allow you to come into the presence of God, the Lord will have mercy. Amen. He placed that cherubim there. That's why when you pray, it's like the heavens like a brass. Nothing goes past. Because you lack access. And it was brought about by relationship. If you are caught in a vehicle with someone who, for instance, you just get caught in the vehicle and the person, they do a search. They call it random search. And they find you with somebody, not you, somebody in your car has a drug. Or maybe you took a lift by accident. Somebody picked you up and it was in a stolen vehicle. You are in trouble by relationship. You will speak a lot of English. What I'm saying this morning in church may be funny to you is that you must control your space. Everybody say, control your space. You see, your space is a gift. Whoever you choose to give it to must value it. I can cut you off completely if you disturb my space. That is your gift. You must control your space. Your space is such a valuable asset to you that those you give it to must earn it. You know, it's so funny. And this might not be a good example. I don't know why the Holy Spirit just brought it to my mind. It's such an odd example. But if you look at the life of two baseball players that are in trouble for the same thing, both of them were caught supposedly to have doped during their time of play. I won't mention names. Both of them were caught, but one of them had a friend that went to jail and said, I will not snitch on him. He went to jail, came out 2 years, they put him back in jail, he did not say any word. The other one had another friend. He was one that came out, please, I was there. You must know who you give your space to. Either secular, anywhere, because those people can affect the story of your life completely. But those you give your life to they don't only bring you down, they can bring you up too. Your relationships can add to you. Let's take Esther, for instance. Esther took advice from two people in her journey. One was from Mordecai, Esther chapter 2, verses 10 to 11. Mordecai, her uncle, a wise old man. The Bible says she took advice every time from that uncle, and she made a success of her life. And then she took advice also from an eunuch, Higai, the king's eunuch. When all the women were looking for jewelry, when they were looking for nice things, when they were going to paint their nails and she went to the man that is closest to the servant of the king and said, what do you think? I mean, it's just so much wisdom. The guy is an eunuch. He's been in the palace for so long. He sees the king undress and dress. He lives with the king. He has no desire of his own. When somebody is an eunuch, what does that mean? He's a committed servant. I've committed my life to you. This woman went to her and said, what does the king want? The others, because he gave them unlimited resources, they were just shopping. They were just shopping. They were buying and buying and buying. And this girl said, I said, what does the king want? All he wants is a black shirt with some pairs of jeans. It's fine. Don't use diamond, use pearls. What am I trying to say to you? There are two people you must listen to in your life. And I want you to write this down. If you're going to succeed, you must listen to wise elders. Because they've been there. They are not every elder is wise. And that's why I said you must listen to what? Wise elders. And then you must listen to committed men of God. Committed servants of God. Listen to them if you want to make a success of your life. I said I'll tell you two things, so let me rush. Who you keep, who you allow to occupy your space will determine what you hear. If you allow me into your space for too long, you'll be born again. Even my wife tells me, when she's upset with me, she says, don't preach to me. Don't start preaching. No sermon. I will preach to you. Whoever you allow into your space will determine what you hear. That's my next point. What you hear can determine your access to God. Watch what you hear. Watch what you hear, and number two, watch how you hear it. There are some things that you hear wrongly. You must tune your ears to hear properly. Watch what you hear. We usually give unlimited access to people that pleases us. Do you agree with me? When somebody is pleasing to you, you want to see them every time. You want to give them access all the time. You want to call them. You want to be with them. So is God, because you are made in his own image. The Bible says in Hebrews chapter 11 verse 6, Hebrews 11 verse 6, it says, it is impossible for you to please God unless you have what? Faith. Unless you have what? Faith. So the key thing for you to please God is what? Faith. How does faith come? Romans 10 what? 17. How does it come? By hearing. How does fear come? By hearing too. So whoever is in your space can determine whether you are a person of faith or a person of fear. But the quality of what you hear determines the quality of your faith. It is the quality of what you hear that determines the quality of your faith. What am I saying? Your faith can never be robust unless you develop the quality of what you hear. That is why service is important. That is why sermons are the most important things you come and do on a Sunday after worshiping God. You cannot develop your faith unless you hear properly and you hear well and you hear the truth. But not only must you hear, you must develop your ability to listen. Everybody say listen. James chapter 1 verse 19 says you should be slow to speak, but quick to hear. What does that mean? It means that you must hear more than you speak. If you are going to see somebody who will be successful, that person is a listener. They hear stuff. They ask questions. They want to know. But some people, before you say Jack Robinson, they have said a story. But when you see somebody who is wise, you will talk and they will be shaking their head. Even if they are foolish, you will know. If they are wise, you will know. Because they just... And that's why so many people have failed interviews. Before they ask you a question, you're answering what they have been asked. Where are you from? I came from Oshobogu. If anybody asks me where I'm from, I'll tell you I'm from Marietta. But you go back to your village. When you get to you turn left. Be quick to hear, be slow to speak. Hear more than you speak. You know, in Matthew chapter 13, verses 3 to 9, Jesus Christ was telling us a parable. We all know the parable about a sower who went out to sow seeds into 4 soils. And each of those seeds, that parable is about what? Hearing. What you do with hearing, what happens to what you hear. It says one fell by the wayside. The one that fell by the wayside were the ones that they didn't understand what they heard. Some fell by the thorns. As they were hearing them, somebody was beside them and telling them, no, they're lying. It's for that one, it's for them. Thorns. They choked it out quickly before it had any grounds. How do you hear? And I'm going to close with this. How do you process what you hear? How? It's very important. Do you process with the bias? You already made up your mind before you heard the first word. There's nothing that anybody can say. You've made up your mind. It's called a stony heart. Nothing can go through. You are the master of yourself. Nothing you hear can affect your life. This will reduce your access to the king. Do you process your hearing with worries instead of faith? The Bible says, without faith, you cannot do what? Please God. And if you don't please God, you cannot have. God bless you. You can't have access. I don't want you around me if you are a miserable person. If you are unpleasing to me, I don't want you around me. Do you process with worry? You're always worried. Everything is panic. Faithless. Write this down. It is in the realm of your hearing that the devil can steal from you. As we are sitting down here today, some of you are taking something home. And some of you, the devil has already stolen the day from you. Because you are thinking of Applebee's. You are thinking of barbecue. The smell is just, ah. But because you don't want to kill, your mind has taken, let me go and have my grill, my ribs at Applebee's. The devil is stealing what? From you. You are missing out. That was what happened in Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. It was in the area of hearing that the devil was able to confuse Eve and make her doubt. In the area of hearing. If you want a guarantee to have access to the king, you must be careful about these two areas. Who you allow to come into your space in relationship with you, and what you allow them to say to you. It is very important. Let us bow our heads. I want you all to just cry to God for unlimited access, unhindered access. If there's anything within your heart that has limited your access, tell God to purge you this morning. As you pray, I want to tell you all that there's, however, a relationship that guarantees access. If you don't have that relationship, you don't have access to the king yet. It's a relationship with our Lord Jesus Christ. It's the key relationship. It's the number one relationship. It's the door opener to all relationships. It's the one that can give you access to the king. If you are here this morning, as others are praying with their heads bowed and their eyes closed, if you are here this morning and you want to have that access through the blood of Jesus, you want to have that access through the power of the blood, just wave your hands at me. I want to pray with you. You want to have that access to the blood of Jesus? I want to pray with you this morning. While others are praying to God to give them unlimited, unrestricted access, if there's anything that has hindered your access, ask God to have mercy this morning. If you are here this morning, I'm waiting for you. 1 minute. Just wave your hands at me. You want God to give you access through the blood of Jesus. You want to surrender it all to him. If you're here this morning and you know in your heart that you have allowed people to come into your space that has affected your life, I want you to cry to God to separate you from such relationships. Ask God to separate you from such relationships and to purge your heart and your ears of their unholy doctrine, unrighteous doctrine, unfaithful doctrine. Ask God to purge your heart of every form of pollution from these relationships. In the same breath, cry to God this morning to give you perfect relationship. To bring you in contact with wise elders, with committed servants of God, that will change the hearings and the words of God in your ears. Cry to God. This is the guarantee of your future. and continual access to the King. Father, we thank you. Thank you for as many, O Lord God Almighty, that are crying to you this morning to change their relationships. Push some away, push some towards them. Purge their ears and their hearts of every form of pollution, and let their access to you be renewed through the blood of the Lamb. Thank you, Heavenly Father. In Jesus' mighty name we pray.